Welcome to the Investor Fuel Real Estate Investing Show, where I interview the nation's top real estate entrepreneurs, industry leaders, and other amazing entrepreneurs to help educate and inspire you to take your business and your life to the next level. My goal is to add tremendous value to you during every single episode of this show. If you get value, I'd love it if you subscribe on your favorite podcast player, subscribe on YouTube, and my very favorite, please share this with your community so we can impact even more entrepreneurs. Let's start today's show. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Today I'm here with my good friend, Travis Johnson. We just discovered he's very blunt. He's not going to sugarcoat anything today. We just talked about that a little bit of an inside joke there, but it's the real deal. He's a nice guy, Minnesota nice, he'd say, but also very blunt sometimes. We're going to talk about the keys to success today, learn a little bit more about Travis's path. And truthfully, there's a lot of lessons learned in here of trial and error and kind of what works, from marketing to setting up your acquisitions process to surrounding yourself with the right people and all those things. So Travis, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me again, Mike. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So don't be too blunt with me. Like I have a special path. It's like you got to be extra nice.
Yeah. No need to sugarcoat it. Just tell everyone the truth, good or bad. It is what it is, right?
Yeah. But I'm excited to talk about this. We just talked about kind of what's happening with your business up in Minnesota, very seasonal up there typically. And so you got to run your business different ways in different parts of the country. But before we jump into learning a little bit more about you and your background and what we're going to talk about today, tell us about how you got into real estate. Tell us a little about your background.
Sure. I started real estate investing, I would say about 2001 is when I started doing it, but it was always part-time. I was chicken shit. I had a 9-to-5 job. I knew I wanted to get into real estate, so I wasn't really sure how to do it. So I did that house hacking at first, right? You buy it, fix it up while you live in it, sell it every 2 years, takes tax-free money, roll it forward. And I did that all the way successfully until 2008 came, and guess what? The bottom fell out. So that means I couldn't really roll it forward. I got stuck in my flip, but the good thing is the flip was one of my nicer ones out of all the ones. So if I was to get stuck somewhere, that wasn't too bad. I came from a blue-collar job. I was a technician. I ran phone and computer wiring, worked on phone systems. I fell into that. I was not passionate at all, and eventually ended up at that business being the operations manager and kind of hated the office politics. So eventually, 16, or actually, it's actually kind of funny. I am literally a little over a month away from my 10-year anniversary when I literally left corporate America to go and do real estate full time. And it was a big gamble because when I quit my job, I quit on principle. I really didn't know what I was going to do in real estate. I was like, can I invest? I don't have a ton of money. I have some money, but I don't have a ton. Should I be a real estate agent? Should I work for someone? I wasn't really sure. I knew I just wanted to quit my job because of the office politics. And I did. And then eventually I chose to go down and buy a franchise system to get into real estate investing. But essentially from 2016 until now, I've been doing it full time.
Yeah. It's amazing how fast time goes by too, right? I mean, I remember for years I was like in the hustle, not that I still don't hustle, but I just remember like I was always kind of like the new guy or a newer guy. And now I'm like, I've been doing this for 17, 18 years now. And I feel like, I've got the gray hair and the scars on my back to prove it too.
Yeah. No, time definitely goes by super fast.
Yeah. One of the things I want to say about time, because you've been doing this for a while too, is, we were just talking about the market and the transition and kind of planning for the year ahead and stuff like that, is that I talk about this all the time about playing the long game. So there are ups and downs in the market. There are ups and downs in every market. And I think one of the things that I want to share with folks that are listening right now is the importance of sticking with it for the long haul. Like, there will always be an opportunity in real estate. Your cheese gets moved around, but like as long as there's humans, they need shelter. There will always be opportunity here, and there's ups and downs, right? And so I think what happens often, or what's happened over the past couple of years, is a lot of people say, well, this is hard, so I'm going to move into something that they perceive to be easy, which will also get hard at some point, and they'll want to come back. And the problem is if you start something new every 2 or 3 years, then you never really get great at it. You're just like constantly restarting, and you're missing out on the opportunities that happen at the beginning and the end of market cycle changes, right? I mean, there's so much opportunity that happens when the market shifts either way, quite frankly. And a lot of people miss out on that. They wait until it gets really good. Then they come back when everybody's already back, and it's not as they missed out on opportunities. I guess my message is like for folks that are listening, and you know this too because you've been around a little while, is like just be willing to work hard and put your head down when times are tough, because that allows you to take advantage of more opportunities over the long haul for sure.
Yep, the fundamentals. And I would use as an analogy of what you said about every 2 to 3 years, someone's like, hey, I got it mastered, and then something changed. And almost like every 2 to 3 years on, I would say rookie investors are the ones that make mistakes. Think of it like a car. They're going to go out and get another car saying, this car will get me to where I need to go for sure. And what we're more trying to describe is your car was all right. Maybe you just needed to change the tires or the rims, because the market changed. Like, let's not start
Yeah.
all over. Let's just change a little bit about what we're doing to adapt to what's going on.
Right, right, yep. So you started by saying that you joined a franchise system. Me too. We were in
Yep.
the same place. But let's talk about. I mean, we have an appreciation for a systematic approach to running the business, like running a business like a franchise, whether you're a part of a franchise system or not. Right?
That's correct. When we decided, hey, we're going to do real estate investing, we're like, hey, franchise business in a box, right? That's just logical. It's like, I kind of know real estate investing, but it's like, I don't know where I get all my leads because I used to get them off the MLS. Hey, if I can get these direct to sellers, that sounds very attractive. Hey, the business in box will help me get financing. So I was like, hey, that solves that problem. So I figured, hey, this is like the easy button. Yeah, you have to work at it a little bit, but I really thought it was the easy button. The one thing is it wasn't, but it did teach me to understand that systems and processes are what you need in your business. And that's the one
Mhm.
big takeaway I would say out of the franchise system. Even though I don't follow it exactly the way it was ran that way, it still taught me early on in my business, if you don't think you need a CRM and a process to follow on every lead that comes in, how you follow up, how you do things, you're going to fail faster than what you think. Literally need something to keep you on track, and processes do that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's that, and kind of like whenever you figure it out, similar to the analogy we gave a minute ago, it's like, as they say, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Like it's going to
Yeah.
continually change. You're going to continually have to improve and update your systems, and things change. The market changes,
Mhm.
the financial lenders change. Like a lot of things change. Your exit strategies might change. Your risk might change, right? Your market might even change, and so you have to like continually adjust those systems because there was a time when I first started, there were zero CRMs for the real estate investing industry. There were literally zero. So people
Okay.
used whiteboards and spreadsheets and legal
Sure.
pads and stuff like that. And then Podio came along, and it's not for real estate, but people made it for real estate. And then now there's CRMs all over the place, which is great. But evolution is going to continue to happen, and you just need to continue to adjust with it.
Yes, you got to go with the flow. Don't resist every change, even though change makes you uncomfortable. You do have to adapt. Otherwise, you're going to be left in the Stone Ages. And not that we're trying to go into this, but just think of AI is knocking on the door of real estate, right? Well, it's all
Yeah.
businesses, but AI is
Yeah.
knocking. Well, I don't understand a lot of it, but I know I need to be part of it. So the thing is
Right.
now my radar's up trying to find what are things that I can start using that I think would benefit my business with AI, but yet not for me, not go, I call it balls deep into that direction. I'm going to go and say, hey, I want to know that I want to go ahead and get everything in order that I think will make sense to apply to my business. And then I'll introduce AI into it once I know that the systems and processes will have the check and balances. Otherwise, it's not for me right away. But guess what? If I stay, 5 more years and chose to do nothing with AI, I expect that I'm going to be struggling massively in my business or be out of business. Even though I don't know
Yeah.
where it's going to go, I have to be ready for the change.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah. We could probably have a whole show talking about AI. We could have a whole series of shows
Yeah.
talking about
Yeah.
AI. So let's talk about just so you left the franchise system, created your own brand. You kind of
Yep.
like had to kind of start that because obviously inside of a franchise, if you were McDonald's, everybody operates as
Exactly.
McDonald's. So when you go out, you got to take what you know and kind of start your own brand and start creating your own processes, right?
Yep. And for us, the brand, you can have a couple different ways. I believe you can come up with your brand name. You could do something that's a core value to yourself. I've seen some people call like honest home buyers or something to that effect. There's nothing wrong with that. What I and my wife decided we wanted to get on the fast track for branding. And, branding is very expensive, right? Just to try and get your name out there, or Walmart or Target, they spend billions of dollars getting their brand out there. Well, that's never going to happen with us. So what we were thinking about is what is known in our state that people already kind of talk about all the time, subconsciously and consciously in their advertisement, was we're also known as Minnesota Nice, which is kind of a lie. We're passive aggressive, other than myself. I just say it to your face, but otherwise, it's really, we're being nice to you, turn your back, and then we give you your honest opinion when you can't hear it. But Minnesota Nice is a phrase that's just given out in our state. It's said it all the time. So what we thought, well, if Minnesota Nice name was available, that's already kind of pre-branded. We're just going to throw the word home buyer behind it. And sure enough, we went out to the GoDaddy and searched Minnesota Nice. mnnice.com was available, which we were shocked by. We're like, hey, that's a very short domain name, super easy for people to memorize because it's already kind of pre-branded in our state. So we bought that
Yeah.
domain and we use that. But the other thing is we're always trying to use the comparison. If you're driving down the road and you're staring at a billboard, can you get the domain name and the phone number memorized in under 6 seconds? If the message related
Right.
to that consumer. If you can't do that, I think that you're going to struggle if you're trying to generate leads, but also get a brand name out there. And we're trying to do two birds, one stone. We're like, how do we get leads, but also how can people memorize? So we thought, hey, we have to have a super easy vanity number. So that's what we came up with. Like in our business, we had 612-930, a simple number that could be memorized, super clean. And then we had mnnice.com is our domain. So branding had a huge impact, but it's also, we are Minnesota Nice. We're not passive aggressive to our sellers, in our case, we're upfront with them, but we were able to tag along that branding
Yeah.
very fast and easy by doing that. So that's something to think about if you're going to create a name.
Yeah, I don't think people think about that enough. Like sometimes you see, I think because where we came from, I think a lot. Obviously, I would probably more than as much as anything refer to myself as a marketer. So I think a
Hmm.
lot about marketing and specifically billboards because we're in
Hmm.
Dallas where I live. There's billboards everywhere.
Yep.
So I'm constantly thinking about there. There's some billboards. There was one today. I can't think of what it is. I actually drove out from my house to the ranch this morning, and there was some billboard that had like a really long domain on it, but the whole billboard was a domain, like a URL, really long
Hmm.
one, but it was like it was like a sentence of like saying something. I can't remember what it was. Kind of weird, but I was like, sometimes billboard is just for branding. Could be like a
Hmm.
Budweiser commercial, and they
Yep.
don't even have like they don't have to have a call to action because they're just branding. Then this one, it was all call to action. There was no branding whatsoever. It was just the whole thing was a URL, like go check this out. But we've all seen billboards or ads before that like you don't know what it is and there's no call to action and you're like that
Yeah.
seems like a complete waste of money. Or they have some really long domain that like nobody's ever going to remember
Yeah.
that. Right. So
You
yeah,
got you got to
good.
keep it simple. That's beyond the
Right.
KISS method. Definitely keep it simple as much as possible. And for us on the branding, you have to have the call for action because we're all not into, we're not extremely wealthy investors. Typically, we're not. So if you're going to
Right.
start your own brand and your own business, you got to find a way to conserve cash, but also make the money work for you. Like in our case, we're trying to do two birds, one stone, the branding and call to action all at the same time.
Yeah, I think for most small and medium businesses, and certainly
Mhm.
most real estate investors, like you're building your brand just has to be a side benefit to good marketing. Like we
Exactly.
can't really afford to do a lot of branding
Yeah.
with the hope that people will figure it out. I
Yeah.
mean, there are some that have been in the game for a long, long time, maybe, but
Yep.
yeah, it's hard.
I
It's
would
hard to
agree.
just go great branding.
Yep. And I wouldn't recommend it
Yeah.
if you're brand new coming, you're starting it. Billboards, no, start smaller, build up the business. When we talk about this is just an example. The billboard was meant for how fast someone can read that message and can it relate. At the end of the day, billboards can be effective, marketing. Definitely for anyone that's kind of medium size or undersize from a marketing budget or a real estate investor applying it, I would definitely stay with the smaller, more cost effective approach to marketing.
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk about, and it goes hand in hand, but kind of a commitment to a higher level of marketing. I think, your business has grown quite a bit over the years and it takes a high level of commitment to marketing. Probably something that if you would look back to what you do now would probably have scared you when you first started, but it's worked
Oh, yeah.
well for you. So just talk about kind of that commitment to marketing, because I think that's why a lot of people get stuck staying small or stuck in an owner operator type business because they're not doing enough to generate leads.
Yep, exactly. I will admit, I was scared shitless when the franchise system said you have to spend at least $5,000 a month just to generate leads. And I left my prior job barely making $8,000 a month gross. And now you're telling me I have to spend 5,000 just on marketing just to see if the money will come back. I was scared shitless, but I committed to the franchise system, like, hey, I'll do it. And I stayed that way through the whole franchise system. I think the most we ever spent was 15,000 in 1 month. And that was like a heart attack, but we started getting a little bit more confidence. But we only bought on average around a dozen houses a year through the franchise system before we went out on our own and branded our own name. And even then, it was slow and steady, trial and error on the marketing. Because when you're a real estate investor, and you know this, Mike, but for anyone that maybe is not new to this, is you're a marketer before you're a real estate investor. You know, the whole business is all about marketing. If you can't bring in the sellers to reach out to you and you can't connect with them, you don't have a business model. The whole thing collapses. You might as well just get on a bunch of wholesalers lists, save the advertising dollar, pay a little bit more premium for your property from the wholesaler, and rehab a house that way. That would be a bit more cost effective. But if you think you're going to be good at marketing and you want to commit to have your own brand, then definitely just have the mindset you are a marketer first, and then you got to, you know, become the real estate investor second. And then from the marketing standpoint, dollar amount wise, stay consistent. It's easy to get knee jerk, like, oh, money's going to get tight. You know, I don't know if the market's going to do what I want. Everything's like planned out 3-4 months in advance, budget wise, deployment of all your marketing. And if you're doing a knee jerk, what you already had planned 3 months out, and you're pulling that capital back, all of a sudden you're going to feel real busy in that moment because the budget was still in play. But as soon as it hits the month where you pulled the rug out, all of a sudden you're going to see your leads just tank like a roller coaster. You're just going to go right up over the edge and you're going to say, I'm not getting any calls. So it's all about being consistent. That's the number one thing we learned the hard way, but also was smart enough to latch onto it early enough, is staying consistent.
Yeah. And I think, if you think about the business, like you just, like all businesses, you have a certain amount of fixed costs. And so there is a range where as you do more deals, there's more profit that falls to the bottom line. Like, and there's scales to this, right? There's, so if you
Yep.
think of it like a stair step, there's stairs to this. But like if you bring in an office assistant or office manager or somebody, like you're going to pay them the same whether you're doing one deal a month or five. So what happens is you start to, I kind of use this phrase, you start to sweat your fixed costs. If you have an office that you're renting, if you have
Hmm.
anybody that's on your staff, other than, you get to a point to where your expenses after a certain point are just variable, like more marketing, more commissions to acquisitions and dispositions people. But you start to scale up your essentially past your fixed cost. So every additional deal becomes more profitable. And as
Exactly.
the owner, so said another way, if you're just doing one or two deals a month, unless you're lean and mean and doing everything and effectively have a job, you're
Hmm.
really not that profitable. Once you get up to deals 3, 4, 5, like things starts to get a little more interesting, right?
Well, it does, and it allows you to delegate. I've been part of masterminds where I sat with people that were newer than I was at the time, and they're like, "How can you afford to hire an acquisition person or a disp?" Well, you really dispo comes way later. You just have to have a lot more properties, but it's really acquisitions is where a lot of the expense comes right away at the beginning, maybe operations, but their mindset, let's say that you're hiring someone for 50 or $60,000 a year is just what it takes to have them on your staff. That's not 50 or 60,000 you're paying that very first month they come on board. That's spread out over a year. You divide it up by 12 months. I mean, it's simple, but it took a few of those people that sat at that table when I told them that. I said, I had the mindset like, man, I can't afford in-house contractors on my staff. And then at the end of the year, I was shocked when I was like, I paid $350,000 of labor to all these people. And guess what? I made the payments when they were due. Like I was never financially stressed. So the point was, is like, hey, I could actually afford monthly. I don't always have to go out and pay in bulk and at a higher price just because you think like, well, I can't have them on my staff, so I have to pay more. And like you said, the fixed cost, once you get that acquisition person, let's say you just get an acquisition on your team, and then let's say a VA on top of it. So you got two people, and let's say it is $50,000 a year between the two. It could be more in other markets, don't rip on me if I'm wrong on that, but that gives you a ballpark for the math to say 50,000, now divide that by 12. And if you're already making, let's say you were only getting 3 deals and you're averaging $30,000 profit per deal, that's still $90,000. You can afford to pay that wage. But what allows you to do is delegate. The big thing here that allowed me to grow is to delegate work out, because there's only so much you can take on yourself. And the more you put on yourself, you're doing those lower level paying jobs. So now when I'm doing something that's just transaction courting extremely important, but I also think that's maybe 18 to $25 an hour job, depends on where you're at. Well, if I'm doing that, that's what I'm getting paid, and I got to be doing things that are $100 an hour or more activities. And the only way that you can do that is you have to
Yeah.
delegate.
Right. 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 Yep. And I happen to know your hourly rate is quite a bit above that, my friend. So,
Well, we got big
so let's talk
expenses.
about just as you scale, and you've scaled your business up quite a bit from kind of the early days here. Is
Yep.
just access to capital. Like you need to have
Yep.
more and more capital to be able to do deals. So just talk about how you coordinate that.
Sure, there's a capital is king. There's no way around it. If you're going to flip houses, you're going to need capital. Wholesaling's kind of dying off just because the laws are changing too. So you got to find a way to get ready to have capital to at least do transaction funding or double close, whatever you want to call it. Cash is king. The one thing that I learned the hard way that I wish I learned so early on is I would get people that I found people that had 150, 200,000 dollars that they want to invest, and you times it by 5 people. It's like, hey, I got about $1 million, but this was their what I call their open bank account. What that means to me is, hey, this is just money that comes and goes out of their bank account. So that means when they have that shiny Bitcoin idea or something pops in their mind, the next shiny object that's going to make them wealthy, they want their money back so they can go pursue that. That's more sexy right now. Instead of getting 10% with you, I can get 15% or more on this other investment. So I'm going to take the money over there. So I got ruined because every time I kept building up my reserve capital where I think I could buy more properties, because I hate lenders because everything's about documentation and all that stuff. And I like the idea of like, hey, you just purchase it, you have a mortgage against the property, I'll fund the rehab in most cases. And I don't need inspections and that, to verify something was done. So that was driving me nuts with that format. I'm very impatient. So I just want things to click one after another. Well, eventually through trial and error, and maybe other people will say, Douglas, you should already known this. Well, I didn't, but private capital from retirement funds, or basically 401ks, Roth IRAs, any money that's sitting in a retirement fund can get turned into a self-directed IRA. Once we started deploying that capital, I realized all our investors never wanted their money back. Yes, they want the money back from the deal. Like, hey, the deal closed, they got the money back and went into self-directed. Then they say, where can I put it next? So we deployed into another capital.
Mhm.
Eventually, we had some people that we done this all the time and they got so comfortable with us, they wanted their money always deployed. So they went unsecured with us, even though it's their retirement funds. Now, there's got to be a lot of trust, right? No one's going to give you unsecured
Sure. Yeah.
capital unless they really believe that you're going to follow through. Yeah, we do personal guarantees. You still do paperwork on this unsecured, but we're allowed to use a portion of the funds to go to this one house, some for this rehab, some for operating costs, some for advertising. Well, eventually we built up to that point where we had a couple of people. So we played with almost $500,000 of unsecured money that are retirement accounts from people that don't ask for it back because they just want that monthly payment because they're building up their retirement funds. And that's
Right.
the number one rule I'd say I tell people in my market. Go after people with retirement funds, get it turned into self-directed IRA. It's super easy to do. And more than likely, as long as you do what you say you're going to do, they're not going to ask for their money back. They're going to say, what other deal can you put it into? So that would be my secret to anyone. I know it's been out there forever, but I didn't realize how a night and day difference was from a retirement account and someone's just liquid cash in their bank account. Which one stayed available more to me was always the retirement funds.
Yeah, because like you don't have to be brilliant, but smart people know that even if you're paying them, let's just hypothetically say 10%, but you keep the money busy half the time, their net return is 5%. All right. So
Right. Yep.
like it's like just keep it busy. I've had some big multifamily deals and
Mhm.
stuff like that. And sometimes people are like, hey, we're gonna sell this one and cash out. And I'm just like, from a mature investor standpoint, I'm like, okay, like what am I gonna do now? Like now I gotta find somewhere else to put it. So it sounds like it's a first world problem for sure.
Yeah, I know.
But
I
it's like,
know.
I want to keep my money deployed 365. That's how you maximize your return.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the percentage you're being paid. It's like, can you keep it busy 365 days a
Yep.
year?
And that's what we were able
Yeah.
to do with our investors. And now, don't get me wrong, could I always use more money? Yes, you always could, because it always seems like the more money that
Yeah.
comes available, the more deals you buy. It's kind of like a weird
Right.
Smurfy law, but it just does. But that would be the for anyone that's looking for capital. But also, I give out a shout out. I use Kiavi as a backdrop. There's times where you have all your money deployed and you have to use a lender, and Kiavi is one of those lenders that I do use just because of the 100% financing, actually be part of an investor feel. Obviously, that was another perk.
Yeah, for a benefit for Investor Field members, yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Let's talk about, there's a couple of things I wanna ask you about is, you have a unique acquisitions process, and when you first told me about this several years back, it was brilliant, I thought. I mean, so, maybe just kinda share, like, how you do acquisitions that's a little bit different than most others.
Sure. I'll kind of give a structural format of how our office operates. It's my wife and I in the business. My wife normally does the bookkeeping, office manager stuff. She also does the interaction with all the employees. She always does daily huddles with them to make sure everyone's on track with what they are. We have two acquisition managers on our team, and we have one VA person that does kind of the transaction coordinating stuff on our team. And then we have a gentleman that does what we call Matterports and also does disp dispo for us. And so we're not a huge team, but we're efficient enough with the size we are. And with the team I described, we average about 70 houses a year. So that kind of gives you a relate to size. So the process starts off, obviously, our marketing, we want all inbound marketing. That's just how we find that works best for us up in Minnesota. Is the more that people can reach out to us versus us hunting them down, it seems to work. So we get our leads. Obviously, they can come through the website, they can call a phone number, they can text us in. It's however they want to reach out to us. But once they connect with our one of our acquisition managers, she's going to go ahead and ask a series of questions. We have a process in place, and then essentially we're trying to find out, is this a motivated seller or is this a retail seller? Because obviously a big difference. And when you run a ton of leads through your business, you have to know which one is the ideal lead and which one is the ideal that, hey, you should list this with a realtor. If you don't have someone, we can refer someone to you type of thing. Triage the call. Let's just say it is motivated. And then the next step that we do is we schedule an on-point camera session, which is a Matterport. So we'll send over our guy, Chad, on our team. He'll go out there and it's about 45 minutes. He'll go around, move the camera around throughout the space. And it basically gives you, if you're not familiar with Matterport, it's a virtual walkthrough, essentially, is what it creates, like a 3D dollhouse. It's really cool. And once he gets that, he uploads it remote out in the field. We have an iPad with stuff. It just gets uploaded. Surprisingly, for how big of the file is, it gets uploaded super quick. So I don't get how that works, but I'm just glad it's speedy. It comes back to our office. We get alerted when it comes available. The team then alerts me when that file's available. When it comes back, I'll review it and I literally make my repair budget literally off that Matterport. And then he has a survey thing. It's independent. He doesn't ask the seller, but are the floors sloped? The window conditions? Is there certain smells in the house that we have? Foundation stuff that he sees. He'll make notes of that. So that could also help me have an impact because there's a lot of cat urine houses. And as you know, there's a night and day difference on how to solve those problems. But
Right.
I'll come up with a repair number, and he also comes up with comparables of what houses sell for. So he'll ultimately, Chad on my dispo side, will also come up with an ARV. I look at the ARV, kind of validate with the numbers that he brought up, the comparables, and then I come up with a repair budget. I come up with an offer, and then I kick it back to my acquisition person. They reach back out to the seller. Seller then is reviewed with the offer. If they like it, they go ahead and sign while they're still on the phone remotely. There are some people in the older age group that aren't tech savvy or just don't trust it. Then we'll go back out and do the belly to belly wet signature in person. So that's kind of our whole
Mhm.
process for acquisitions.
Yeah, because when you have as much experience as you do, like, you really just need to see a few things, like, a
Mhm,
lot of the repairs are based off of square footage, like, you kinda know, but it's like,
mhm.
well, tell me about, all the systems, foundation issues, just a few basic things, and it's allowed you to not have to drive out to every. I know some people that still do over 100 plus deals a year, you do too, that are still doing all the or a lot of the acquisitions, and they're
Sure.
approving everything, right? And it allows you to still do that if that's what you're comfortable with,
Yep.
but do it in a few minutes instead of a few hours per deal because of all the drive time.
Yeah, I would say each file that comes back to me, I'll have no more than 15 minutes involved. Even if I have to reach out to acquisition person to ask some follow-up questions, it's 15 minutes
Yeah.
max. In a given week, I'm maybe looking at a dozen files, which I mean isn't ton. So a lot of times, I would say I'm close to 3 houses a day that pops into my queue. I review it. If there's some urgencies, the team will let me know. Otherwise, I'll get to it that day at some point, give the feedback, and this is how we normally average 5 to 7 houses a month. And we purchase with the properties, and we do it all strictly from that. We do an inspection. It's called owner's approval. So let's say they do accept the offer. I now have up to 10 days to go out to the property, and walk it myself just to validate, hey, I looked everything off of virtual, I went off a piece of paper, let's just make sure this is the real deal. And I think I can count only twice I had to renegotiate a small price reduction because there were some things that just weren't seen on the Matterport that I saw in
Right.
person, but it was a high ticket item. But outside of that, the numbers just work out. And there's just some deals like today we're closing on one in a townhouse. Well, on a townhouse up in our market, the outside's all covered by the association. So there's nothing about the outside that you have to even factor in for. So it's just the inside. And the inside, for us, it was paint and carpet and was in cat urine house. So it's like, hey, I got to update the bathrooms, flooring, paint, and that easily can be done, especially the years of how many years I've been doing it. You just know your numbers from just looking at the space
Right.
and you're like, oh, this is a $45,000 rehab. And I'm always surprised that it's like we're pretty accurate with our guesstimate on our repairs, but it's also just from years of doing it and reviewing the numbers of what our bills are and what they cost. The
Yeah.
math is what the math is.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's all math. So, hey, thanks for sharing that. So, Travis, you've been a part of Investor Fuel for around coming up on 5 years, I think now.
Yeah.
Part of the group, big giver, always willing to share. And would you mind just kind of sharing your experience of being a part of Investor Fuel?
Sure. I joined Investor Fuel because I knew I was going to be essentially an investor on an island. It's when you're in your market and you're competing at first, competitors for the most part, they're not going to help you, right? They don't want one more person that they have to compete against. So I was like, well, I have to go somewhere to get more knowledge because I know kind of something from the franchise system, right? I had that, but that still wasn't enough. And I was like, there's got to be a better way to get more knowledge about real estate investing when people are struggling. So I did some research. I also think you hounded me along with other franchises, the hey, Joy Feel type of thing, a combination thereof. I was able to connect with you guys and I gave it a try. And I was excited because once I went to the first meeting, I realized, hey, this is what I need in my business. Definitely at the beginning, this is what I need because this is going to give me structure. I can say, this is where I'm struggling. Anyone else struggling? Can someone tell me who's doing something better? And when you're in a group like that, there's not, a lot of times you're not competing with anyone in your own market in the group. So a lot of people are willing to share what's working because they're in another state. So they don't care. They're like, hey, I'm from Fort Worth, Texas. I'll tell you exactly what I'm doing. You can steal my model if you want. So Investor Fuel allowed me to gain access to all those people. And then all my marketing, my success in my business is 100% to you, Mike, and creating the group. Now I had to take the risk. I had to meet the vendors. I had to do the trial and error, right? So there's still risk there, but if you didn't have that all in one spot, I don't think I would be here today, to be honest. If I am, I would only be doing five, 6 deals a year, and I would be doing everything. Phone calls, the renovations, everything I would be doing myself. And
Mm.
I would probably be making maybe 125 a year. Not saying that's bad, but compared to what I make now, and I can delegate most of that away, it's all from the success of being part of a mastermind. And I can't say enough to you, Mike, that I appreciate that you created Investor Fuel and I was able to take advantage of
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I'm glad you're a part of it. And maybe we'll have to talk about your estate and your will at some point.
it. Yeah, yeah, don't worry. The bill's in the mail too, right? So,
Yeah, yeah. No, so glad to have you be a part of it. And I think
mhm,
coming in and learning those things, and I know there's a reciprocity thing, right? Like I know you have gratitude for that, and I
mhm,
appreciate that. And a lot of you're saying me, but a lot of it is also from the community that we have. You have some level
exactly.
of reciprocity to want to give and share that with other people as
Yeah,
well. And that's just kinda how the whole thing works. It's just a cycle of give and get, right?
yeah. This isn't to scare anyone away, but there's sometimes you're going to go to a mastermind session that you feel like you got almost zero out of it. Like you're like, I didn't learn anything new. When normally when I'm at those events, and you don't know when that's going to happen, it's just you show up and you're like, hey, man, I'm just not getting anything new. But then what clicks is it seems like everyone else is struggling, but you already have the answers to their struggles. So guess what? That becomes a giver session. So that's what I
Mhm.
do is in those moments when I realize, boy, this one, I'm just not getting as much as I wanted out of it. It always seems like it lines up perfect that, hey, someone's struggling. I already know how to solve it. Or this is what I did in my business. And I'll just go around the room to everyone whenever I hear them speak. If they're struggling and I have an answer to it, I'll just go and tell them, hey, this is what worked for me. If you want to connect afterwards, let's talk more. It doesn't mean you have to do what I did, but I already know the struggle you went through and this is how I solved it.
Yeah, that's great. Travis, I appreciate you joining me today. If folks want to connect with you, if they're looking to possibly lend money, find ways to do deals, just talk to somebody that's Minnesota nice, where can they go to connect?
Sure. You can always call our office. I won't give out my cell phone. I'm a little more guarded on that because I don't know who's all watching. But you can call my office at 612-2000, and you get to say, hey, you saw me on the show, and you reach out that way. But I will give out my email address. It's Travis, that's Travis at mnnice.com. You can shoot me an email that way and just reference to saw me on the show. I am pretty much an open book. I've just always been that way because the one thing I also learned on the franchise system and then going through Investor Fuel, I knew exactly in the franchise system every channel they were marketing on, right? There was no secret. I knew exactly every channel. I went out and I thought, hey, I can reproduce those channels. It's what you do on each one of those channels is really where the success comes from. And that becomes trial and error. So I still don't mind sharing all the channels that I'm on, give some feedback on something. I mean, as you know, you can't give away everything, but I can push people in the right direction to help them cut down on their trial and error. Absolutely. And I'll talk anyone's ear off. You already know that, Mike.
Yeah. Well, and the truth is that all is in the execution, right? I mean, I think one of the things that I realized is like people are worried about giving away their secrets, and it's like, yeah, but most people can't execute it the way that you can
Mhm.
until they know what you know, right? And so,
Exactly.
like so it's not like nobody's ever thought of like using direct mail or pay per click or
Yeah.
TV to advertise. It
Yeah.
all comes down to how you do it, whether you do it consistently. I mean, there's things that a lot of us do, you as well, but in my business, there's things that we've been doing this year that I've thought about of like we tell people what we do, but it's like, yeah, but we've like had like a million gut punches and pivoted a bunch of times from learning those things.
Yeah.
And just saying like, go do this doesn't really carry a whole lot of weight until you know where all the landmines are buried, right?
Exactly. But you have to be ready to just accept in your mind, you're going to hit those landmines. Don't get
Yeah.
stuck with analysis paralysis. Dude, I was there all the way up until I quit my job. It was too chicken shit to go invest all independently. But eventually I just I wanted change and I knew real estate was something. And of course, now realized the investing part was the thing. But analysis paralysis almost kills anyone waiting to get ready and say, I don't want to make a mistake. I got to go to one more meeting and then it'll launch. I'll get one more coaching package and then I'll be ready to launch. That's just
Yeah.
bullshit. You just get off your ass and try something. Now, take a little bit of directions. Don't go blind, but also try, but expect that at the very beginning, you're going to have one step forward, two steps backwards. And then eventually it's two steps forward, only one backwards. I don't think there's ever three forward and zero backwards. I haven't found the success on that. But it's all about keep trying because the more you're willing to try, the more the doors will open for you. Consistency goes a long ways in this business. It's easier said than done, but I've been proof on my end. Staying consistent allows you to grow in your business.
Fantastic. Well, thanks again for joining us today, sharing your lessons learned.
Anytime, Mike. Always happy to help.
Yeah, yeah. Everybody, hope you got some great insights from today. If you're looking to take your business to the next level, we'd love to talk to you about Investor Fuel. That's what we're all about is working with amazing people that are big givers and can take what they've learned and apply it to the business and change their life ultimately. So you can go to investorfuel.com to learn more. Otherwise, we'll see you on the next show. Thanks for joining us for today's show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing on your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. You can also check out the show's notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and even how to work with me directly one-on-one. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. See you on the next show.